Who knew the Knicks could be this dominant? Not me, that's for damn sure. I'm not gonna lie to you. Coming into these playoffs, I thought that the Knicks had a solid chance to be the number two team in the East. I mean, like myself and like a lot of other people, I think we all had Boston coming out the East. But obviously, that didn't happen, and to a lot of people's surprise, definitely mine. And the way that it happened was very surprising. But I always said that if the Celtics didn't make it, it was going to be the Knicks to beat them because the Knicks beat them last year, even with you know what I'm saying. They was already going to beat them before Tatum got hurt. I don't care what anybody says. They were already going up 3-1 before Tatum got hurt. They wasn't going to come back. That wasn't going to happen. That was not going to be a thing. But for this team just to be so good like this, it's kind of blowing my mind. And not because they don't have the personnel. That's not it at all. It's just because I don't know. It's like the Knicks. They have this. There's this narrative that a 6'1" guy cannot lead the team to a championship. It's very far and few in between. I think the only guys that's really successful to do it is like number one options is like Isaiah Thomas and Stephen Curry. I can't really think of anybody else. Maybe Chauncey Billups, but we can't really say Chauncey Billups because he also had Richard Hamilton, he had Rasheed Wallace, and he wasn't just like the clear cut number one, even though he did win the Finals MVP. But we're talking about actual superstar guards like Isaiah Thomas, Stephen Curry. Those are top five guards in NBA. Chris Paul never won a ring as the number one option. He never won a ring in general. John Stockton. Who else? There's a bunch of small guards. There's never really won championships as the number one option. It's mostly been like a wing and big man league. And all these other point guards that's winning it nowadays, they're really big guys. Like Shea just won it last year. He's 6'6", and then before him it was the Celtics. That was Tatum wing. Before then it was Nuggets. Center with Jokic, and then before then I think it was the Bucks that won. That's another big man. And then before the Bucks, who was it before then? Oh, it was the Warriors. So Steph Curry, but. Oh wait, no, I'm tripping. I am totally tripping, guys. My fault. My fault. I'm getting the timelines mixed up, but you guys get it. Basically, there hasn't been many teams that's won with small guards, and the fact that the Knicks are on the verge of doing is actually astronomical. They could like actually break that narrative, and a lot of people say, what do they say? What do they say? Guilty, not guilty until proven innocent, but pretty much it's the same thing. Until it's proven, people will say it can't happen. So I think Brunson has a very strong case in leading his team to a championship. Actually, over the past few years, we've been saying that the East has been so weak and that, the West is just this powerhouse. But I don't even know if I really even think that's true. Now, a lot of people on Twitter are saying, oh yeah, whoever comes out the East, whether it's the Cavs or the Knicks, they're getting smacked by the Spurs or the Thunder. Now, right now, the Thunder are up 2-1. The game is tonight. We'll see what happens and who goes up. My prediction is that the Thunder go up 3-1. But I'm a little bit biased. I'm a Thunder fan, so I want them to go up 3-1. But I can also see if the Spurs come back strong into game 4. The Thunder have a lot of injuries going on right now. The Spurs do as well, but their guys are still playing. So, I mean, they have a better chance than the Thunder. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the Spurs could come back and win the series, but I mean, I don't think they're going to, but we'll see what happens with that. But the Knicks have just been so dominant in this postseason, and when they get to the finals, it might be overshadowed because by the West, and they'll just say that these guys played bad teams. That's all they'll say. Like in the first round, they played the Hawks, who, I mean, they were very hot at the end of the regular season, but nobody looked at the Hawks as, contenders. Nobody looked at the Hawks as like, that they could still around. Maybe if they didn't go against the Knicks in the first round, they thought they could still around against somebody, but nobody really thought of the Knicks as like, anything in the playoffs. And then in the second round, they beat the 76ers, who had just beat the Celtics. Now, in my mind, I thought, because I had the Celtics as playoff contenders, but they were definitely far from it. In my head, I'm thinking that the 76ers and the Knicks series would go 7 games, and honestly had 76ers going on top. But boy, was I wrong. The Knicks swept these guys like crazy, and it wasn't even close. First game they blew. Was it the first game or the second game? They I don't know, but they blew these guys out at least twice. That's what I remember. They definitely did blow them out at least twice. And it was just a dominant series. So then people go on to say, okay, well the 76ers was just bad. Joel Embiid was injured. Not saying talking about how OG and Anunoby didn't play like 2 games in that series. They didn't talk about that. They just went on to say about how the 76ers had no business being in the second round anyway because they're a 7th seed. So okay, people swept that on by the rug, but now they're in the conference finals, and I don't give a damn who you're going against to the conference finals. Whoever is in the conference final, they're a damn good team regardless. It's the conference final. You just don't get to the conference finals on accident. You have to be a pretty decent damn team or okay team. You know what I'm saying? I honestly thought that the Pistons was going to make it over the Cavs. I don't know if it would have been much of a more challenge. Probably not. But my point is that you have to be a damn good team to even make it to the conference finals. Anyway, and for these guys to just pick apart the Cavs is just astronomical. It is just crazy. First game, I think Cavs are up by like 22 or something like that going into the fourth, or that was their biggest lead at least. So people thinking that okay, the Cavs are not just gonna roll over; they're gonna make this competitive. Even though most of everybody had the Knicks winning and whatnot too, right? I had the Knicks winning too, but in like 6. These guys come back. I'm talking about just targeting James Harden, cooking them. Brunson's going crazy, and just break these guys' spirit and steal game 1. We're thinking, okay, well, I mean, game 2 is still, I mean, they got their hearts broken game 1. They can still come back in game 2. Game 2, they lose again. And then, okay, we're thinking still, okay, Cleveland just went to 2 game 7s. And one of the series, they was down 2-0 to start to the Pistons. Okay, surely, you know what I'm saying, they can still make this a series. They lose in game 3, and New York just breaks their spirits. At the end of the game, they didn't even seem to like want to play. It seems like they given up. Like New York is truly breaking these guys down, which is it's kind of crazy to see. Like in the playoffs, just to see a team get completely like these guys are breaking their spirits, which is it's crazy. It's really crazy. Anyway, enough about this current series because this current series is over. They're probably going to get swept. It doesn't matter. Nobody's ever come back down from 3-0. This series is chalks. That's done. That's finished. So on and so forth. But I kind of want to talk about their depth a little bit because the Spurs and OKC is pretty deep. OKC is more deep than the Spurs, but both of these guys are still kind of deep, right? So the Knicks, they're not deep in the traditional sense, in my personal opinion, because I mean their bench is okay. They got Miles McBride, who's a pretty good player. You know what I'm saying? Great 3-point shooter, good defensively. They got Jordan Clarkson, who's a good shooter. He can make some plays off the bench. You got Mitchell Robinson, who's a great rebounder, pretty good defensively. Landry Shaman, who's gonna compete on the defense. He's gonna make some threes. He's a specialist at that. You got Jose Alvarado. He can definitely shoot. He got that famous meme. Yes, I can shoot. I hope some of you guys remember that. That was pretty funny when I first seen it. But you got Jose Alvarado, who hasn't been playing many minutes, but that's a card that these guys can always play. Never forget that. But what I mean when I say these guys are like not deep in the traditional sense, even though they have a decent bench, like we look at the Spurs, they got Dylan Harper, who's a great bench player right now. He should be a starter, honestly. We got Keldon Johnson, who's the 6th man of the year. No matter how you feel about Keldon Johnson, he's still won the 6th man of the year. They got Barnes coming off the bench. He's pretty decent. You look at OKC, they got AJ Mitchell coming off the bench. I made a video about him. Go check that out. You also got Jared McCain. I was planning on making a video about him, but I don't know. But you got guys like, AJ, Jared McCain. You got Aaron Wiggins, who hasn't been getting much tick, but, he's still a great NBA player. Helped them out last year. They got Kenrich Williams. They got Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, the big one, not the little one. J Will, not J Dub. But they just got so many guys. Like both the Spurs and OKC, they have a great bench, and I feel like the Knicks bench is kind of lackluster compared to those guys. But what the Knicks have over these guys is that their starting five is like amazing. Literally 1 through 5, their starting five is absolutely amazing. You got Jalen Brunson at the one. He's guaranteed to give you. He can give you 35 to 40 any given night. You got Mikal Bridges. Y'all remember Brooklyn Nets Mikal Bridges? He was giving y'all 25, 26, 27. But now he's not doing that anymore. But he can still give you 20 on any given night, whether it's needed or not. He can do that consistently. He's still playing great defense nowadays. He wasn't at first, but he's back on that. Then you got at the three, you got OG Anunoby, made second team on defense. He'll lock you up pretty well. He got a three ball. He can self create for himself. Then you got Josh Hart at the four. You know what I'm saying? Great rebounder. He can give you 15 points a game. You know what I'm saying? 3 point is streaky, but that's okay. He can make them sometimes. Defense pretty good. I don't know if I said good rebounder, but he's a really good rebounder. And you got Cat at the center. He's been stepping up his defense, been having great defense lately. Can rebound the ball. They turn him into like a Jokic type of center, he can really play make and pass the ball. Um, you know, he's a scorer when needed. One of the best 3 point shooters as a big man ever. Honestly, maybe the best big man shooter in the league at this current point. So, they just got so many depth with their starting lineup because, well, OKC and the Spurs, they have some certain, we can say, weak points in their starting lineup. Not every guy can score through like when I look at OKC lineup, I think about Dort. You know what I'm saying? He's a great defensive player, but, he can't really self-create for himself. He can't really put the ball in his basket unless he's, fed the ball. Also, guys like, well, I don't think Hassan Wallace is starting right now, but, like I said, Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein, these guys can't really get you a bucket. On the Spurs, you got guys like Champagne, they can't really give you a bucket. It's just guys like that. But the Knicks, they can stagger their guys' minutes. Maybe 6 minutes go by. You send Mikal to the bench, you leave OG in, they can replace each other at some point. You send let's say you send Mikal and Hart to the bench in the first 6 minutes, and then another 6 minutes go by. Then you put Brunson and you put Cat to the bench. Let's say you put OG to the bench too, right? Then you bring in the bench lineup, you put back in Mikal and Hart, and they can run and still have the offense going good. That's actually one thing I've thought about with this Knicks team. Who is their point guard when Brunson goes to the floor? I don't know. But another thing is these guys are really good with their depth and all, but I'm kind of wondering, are they going to get targeted on defense? Obviously, Brunson is like 6'1". He's been getting targeted by the Cavs. I mean, it hasn't really been working well for them. They can hide Brunson with their defense, but can they also hide? Well, I wouldn't say hide McBride, even though he's a smaller guard. He competes defensively, but like I said, he's small nonetheless. People can still shoot over him. So in terms of that, and Landry Shamet, he's a decent defender, but is he going to be able to guard the likes of a Shea? Is he going to be able to guard a Stephon Castle, who's really physical? Is he going to be able to guard a Dylan Harper? Is he going to be able to stay? Is he going to be able to guard a Fox? We just don't know these things. That's the only thing I might have to say about the Knicks. That's the only thing I might have to say. Because even though there'll be guys like Mikal and OG to guard these guys, and even Hart, they're gonna try to switch and try to get these guys on the switch and try to get these guys on the island. Now we'll see what their game plan is for that, but I'm very excited. I think the Knicks can definitely beat the Spurs or OKC in the finals. I think they'll probably beat Spurs if they get them. I will say they would lose to OKC just because, not being biased, I promise. They just haven't beat OKC in 3 years, and I've seen them beat Spurs recently, so I don't know. But yeah, they've won 10 straight. They're a really good team. and I'm excited to see them in the finals. I know the New York Knicks fans are happy. I'm happy for you guys too.